If you've ever tried to take what you've been learning and use it to create something of your own, you know what a powerful practice that can be. It's easy to watch someone or to read something and think, okay, I've got it. Yep, I can do that. But then when you try it for yourself, that's when you realize exactly what you have grasped and what still needs some improvement. Creating something from what you have learned is a powerful tool for self-education, and it's one that you can easily incorporate into your homeschool. Here's how. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. For your personal growth and continued learning, be sure you subscribe. We bring you new Charlotte Mason training and encouragement for homeschool parents every week. We've been looking at the 6 tools for self-education. These are the tools that will equip your student to keep learning for himself over a lifetime. If you've missed any of the episodes in this series, check the description for links. Today, we want to look at the last tool, Create. This is the tool that brings together all that has been learned with the other tools. The practice of creating means making something by combining various parts into a coherent whole. So what your student has learned through observation, reading, telling, recording, and memorizing can all come together in the act of creating. When your student synthesizes or brings together all that he has learned and uses it to create something of his own, he's encouraged to grow in many ways. First, he gains a deeper understanding of the topic as he determines what parts to include and what parts to leave out. He has to sift through all of the pieces and figure out which ones will contribute to this creative project and how. That's a crucial review of knowledge, and it's an important role in making that knowledge your own possession. Second, your student exercises his creativity as he imagines what this project could look like and determines how he wants to present it. That stretching of the imagination plays a big part in growing as a person. Third, he grows in his problem-solving skills. We all know doing a creative project doesn't always go to plan. Sometimes things don't turn out quite as you had imagined. And when that happens, your student receives valuable practice in identifying cause and effect, coming up with alternative ideas, weighing pros and cons, learning to be resilient. And then fourth, as he's thinking through the pieces, mentally picking each one up and turning it around in his mind to determine whether to use it and how he might use it in the creative project, his brain will be firing to related connections. He will recall other ideas that he's learned previously, which are related to this newer idea that he's examining. We've talked about that science of relations in a previous episode, and the creative process provides fertile ground for forming more of those relations as your student discovers new ways that things fit together. Those discoveries, in turn, solidify both the old and the new knowledge in his mind. The Charlotte Mason approach provides regular opportunities for your student to create, to practice using this important tool of learning. Now, interestingly, several of the opportunities are woven into language lessons of different kinds. When we think about being creative, we might not usually think about applying it to language, but it makes all kinds of sense. There are many different ways of being creative, with words, with numbers, with sounds, with images, with materials. And all of those are interwoven into a Charlotte Mason education. In beginning reading lessons, as your student is learning to read, he's encouraged to take the word cards that he has learned and create his own sentences with them. He can even interject a word or two that he hasn't learned yet if he wants to. See, as he lays out the word cards in order to show his sentence, he can put a blank card or a little token in the place where he used a word that he doesn't yet know how to read. That placeholder in his own created sentence will keep him excited to continue learning new words because he doesn't know when that one might pop up in his lesson. In foreign language lessons, your student learns a series and then is encouraged to think about another situation in which that series might apply. So he might learn in the first lesson, I take the book, I open the book, I close the book. And once he has learned that series in the new language, for example, in Spanish, then you can ask, what other kinds of things can we abro, open? Now, you're asking him to take what he has observed and told and recorded if he's old enough and memorized, and now use all of that to create a new series of his own. So when you say, what other kinds of things can we abro, he might say, the door. Okay, great. Now he wants to learn that one more new word so he can finish his own series creation. Even written narrations and composition lessons can include a creative component. Your student can be challenged to write a narration in the form of a poem, or a letter, or an interview. There are many different styles of writing that encourage creativity using language. Charlotte Mason also included creativity in math lessons. Each lesson includes 5 minutes of rapid, short, interesting word problems that review what your student has already learned. It's called mental math. As your student gets comfortable with those little 5-minute sessions, you can offer him the chance to come up with his own mental math problems. And this creative process doesn't have to be relegated just to math lesson time. You could do mental math in the car, or at the lunch table, or at a park, anywhere and any time. If you have more than one student, they can ask each other their own mental math questions. Or if you're brave, let them ask you. You might be surprised at the level of understanding that your student demonstrates by creating his own mental math. Geography lessons also include a creative component. Older students are challenged to sketch a map of the region that they are studying. Now, it's one thing to label a map that has the boundaries already drawn in. It's another thing altogether to try to sketch a map of that region on a blank sheet of paper. If I asked you to sketch a map of the United States, think of what your mind would do. You would need to consider, where do I begin? What elements do I need to include? How large do I want this sketch to be? How much farther south does Florida go in proportion to the southernmost tip of Texas? Do you see all of the mental work that goes into this type of creating? There's also creativity involved in what we call the arts. Now, that's what usually comes to mind when we think about creating. And unfortunately, that's often what is left out of many students' educations today. I am so glad that a Charlotte Mason education includes those subjects as a regular, important component of the curriculum. Your student makes handcrafts using different types of materials, yarn and cloth and wood, paper, rope, and more. During handcraft lessons, your student has a model that he's learning the skills from. Then once the skills are learned, he can use them to make his own creations. Music is another prime opportunity to create. Students in Charlotte's schools and homeschools were encouraged to take piano lessons. Now, whatever instrument you choose, creating your own music is a wonderful way of expressing what you are learning and making it your own. First, your student learns the notes and how to play the instrument. Then he can use that knowledge to pursue creating music, not just making sounds. And of course, art instruction is an important part of your student's education. Art is quite similar to handicrafts in that he's working with a variety of materials and media and learning techniques that can then be used to create something of his own, whether it's a painting, a sketch, a pastel drawing, a sculpture, or a beautifully dyed piece of cloth. I think the Charlotte Mason approach places a priority on creating that I don't often see in other approaches to education. And I think that's because Charlotte recognized its value as a tool for self-education. What have you or your students created lately? I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment and let me know. And if you would like some help with including these opportunities to create as a regular part of your homeschool, we have simple resources available. Check the links in the description. Now let's wrap up with 3 practical tips for using this tool of creating. Tip number 1, give your student freedom within known boundaries. When we talk about encouraging your student to create something, we're talking about giving him space to express his own ideas. So be careful of over-managing the process. Yes, give him good models. Yes, teach him slowly and carefully each skill that he will need in order to create something of his own. But remember that if you tell him he can narrate by choosing 5 interview questions to ask, for example, then let him choose those questions without your interrupting or giving suggestions or looking over his ideas or rejecting some of the questions he wrote. All of these creative projects require some form of boundaries. Boundaries are actually good for the creative process. They encourage your student to think more deeply and to look at the challenge from various angles. He might not be able to just take the first thing that pops into his mind. So don't avoid boundaries. Just make sure those boundaries are communicated up front before your student begins the mental work of constructing his own creation. If you assign him that come up with 5 interview questions, then be sure to let him know that you want 5 interview questions that cover the material that he just read and that require more than a 1-word answer. Those are the boundaries. Now, give him freedom within those boundaries. Which questions he decides to ask and how he chooses to word them are part of that freedom. Which colors he uses on his map or which characters he inserts into his mental math problem, those are part of the creative process. Be careful not to squelch it with too much management. Tip number 2, encourage good habits. As we talk about creating and freedom in creating, there's a balance to keep in mind. Even as you encourage your student to create with freedom, also continue to work on good habits in those creative projects. Habits such as best effort, accuracy, and thoroughness. These opportunities to create are not free-for-alls, in which the student can do whatever he feels like and doesn't have to put forth any effort. Rather, this type of creating is part of a learning process. It requires him to bring together all that he has been learning. And applying good habits to this part of the learning process will help him practice using this tool most effectively. So give him freedom in his art project, for example, but keep your expectations consistent just as you do in other subjects and daily life. He's expected to give that art project his full attention and his best effort. And he's expected to help clean up when he's done. Those good habits stay in place across the board. Creative projects should still include good habits. Tip number 3, celebrate growth. The whole point of learning is to continue to grow as a person, and this particular tool of learning is no different. Creating something from what he has learned will contribute toward your student's growth, even if what he created is not absolutely perfect, and many times it won't be. You can still celebrate growth on the path toward perfection. If your student is demonstrating the good habits you're working on, then turn his attention toward the process more than the product. What did he learn from this project? How did he grow? Maybe he learned that he doesn't know this piece of music as well as he thought he did. Well, that's valuable knowledge. Now, What will he do with that knowledge? How can that spur him on to continue growing as a person? If we want to encourage lifelong learning, then our students need to understand that discovering holes in their knowledge or weak points in their skills is an important part of the process. Those holes and weak points reveal areas in which they can keep growing. So focus on growth and celebrate it all along the way, both the growth that you have seen and the growth that now can come next. Creating is the final tool in our 6 Tools for Lifetime Learning series. Do you remember what they are? Observe, read, tell, record, memorize, and create. Look and listen closely and carefully. When first-hand observation is not possible, read a living book that makes it seem as if you were there in person. Then tell what you learned, putting it in your own words. Record the ideas that stood out to you in words or in pictures. Memorize the details and ideas that would be good to have at the ready in your mind. And finally, bring together everything that you've learned and create something of your own. Those are the tools that anyone can use to keep learning over his entire life. And those are the tools that are woven throughout the Charlotte Mason method. As your student gets regular practice in using these 6 tools, they'll become second nature to him. Soon the tools will become invisible, and he will only notice the ideas that they are bringing to his mind. Just as when he was little and learning how to use a spoon to bring food to his mouth. It took some practice. There were some wobbles and some mistakes, but now he doesn't even think about the spoon or knife or fork. They're just tools to get the food in where he can enjoy it and benefit from it. And it's the same with these tools for learning. By using the Charlotte Mason method, you are giving your student daily practice in using them. And the more he uses them, the more he will be able to feed himself ideas and continue to learn. Observe, read, tell, record, memorize, create. Those are the tools for a lifetime of self-education. Check the description for the links I mentioned. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.